7 o'clock. Let's call this board work session of the Silver Falls School District to order. Please note attendance, Debbie. Okay, first up is Jamie McCarty. He's going to welcome us here to Victor Point School.
Welcome to Victor Point School. Thank you for coming all the way out here to our school. We so appreciate it. And Victor Point, really in the last year and a half, has totally changed. I don't know how many of you have walked the halls and seen our school before, but we were able to get the seismic grant last year, and so the entire school pretty much has been gutted, redone, new lighting, all the way through the school, new flooring in classrooms, windows. Really need this, but we're really proud of what our district's been able to do with the seismic and what it's done for our school, all the way through from top to bottom. Actually, our gym, we've been able to put about $10,000 into our gym in the last year. Our PTC, new glass backboards, new paint, new end cushions. And I don't know if you've been in the bathrooms before. I don't want to talk them way up, but they are so much better and look so great. But just a lot of hard work by everyone, and a big thanks to our district for getting that seismic grant, because what it's done for our school. Real quick, we're in the process with our site council and PTC, and we have some of them here, so it's fun to talk about. We're working on a covered play structure which will be out back, almost in the same area as our concrete pads, our big concrete pad with basketball hoops out there, but working on a project to cover that so we can utilize our facility during the rain and stormy, and Oregon's long and cold and wet, and we're in the gym the entire time, and it's tough for the facility to only have a gym space for outside recess, so we're working on that. And our presenter tonight, we have Megan Learman. She is our 6, 7, and 8 math and science teacher, and I'm going to let her kind of take it from here and kind of talk about some new elective class that she has started here at Victor Point. And we do have 2 students coming. They live so far away on Edison, but they're on their way, so they will be entering, and if not, she will take it from here. So
thank you. So not this past summer, but the summer before, the district sent me and a couple other people from the district, Colorado, to a computer science conference. It was for SFSD week, computer science. And one thing that we learned there was a program called Bootstrap. And what Bootstrap is it takes computer science, but then it integrates it with algebra, so that as students are learning coding, they're also increasing their algebra skills. So I will show you a brief video. Hopefully Bjorn and Locke can show up. It is Bjorn's video. I taught it last spring. So in the fall, in our electives, I do like a keyboarding class, and then in the spring we do coding, or we've done Excel. So I will show you a little video about what he did as his final project using both coding and a green screen, and then I will either talk about it, or hopefully they're here today to talk about it.
Hi, my name is Bjorn Doss, and today I'll be talking about the unique animated formation premise. Based on the book series by John Kennedy, it sets you in the middle of the forest fighting wolves and trying to collect a bag of gold. Throwing the wolves and collecting a bag of gold and scoring points, while getting killed by the wolf and so making you lose points. Overall, you're trying to get the highest score possible. You're scoring from 0 to die. One part of the code that I'm particularly proud of, you could say, is the hiding. Essentially what the hiding does is it ends up moving your X and Y coordinates all the way off the screen while still allowing you to move them. Then you can move them back down onto the screen and come back. At some point in the video, you may see your character hiding from the wolf right before he comes again. By hitting the H key, he's hiding. By hitting it again, he comes back. A concept that I learned that I did not know before were circles of evaluation. Basically what this does is it calculates an equation in the middle of a circle. For instance, if you're trying to say 5 times 4, you end up having a circle with a times symbol at the top, and then 5 and 4 in the middle. Basically, the top part means that's the order of operations you're doing, and the two and the variables when you're multiplying. This can also be used in a bunch of different parts of the code. For instance, when I was doing the hiding. He ended up hiding in the circle of evaluation, the hide key, and a lot of things underneath it, such as adding the x coordinates and adding the y coordinates. Other things you may see in this game is hitting the space button, which essentially shoots the errors. And although sometimes it can glitch out, escape an error hits the wolf or the back of the wolf together, scoring points. Also, if your player's x and y coordinates touch the back of the goal, you score points. If they touch the wolf, you end up losing points.
So with Bootstrap, what you're seeing in the background is the template that was built by wescheme.org, Bootstrap, and then they fill in the blanks with the XYs, they learn Pythagorean theorem, distance formula, what a function is and how that works. Not only was I able to use it in coding class, but it was really cool in both math and in science when different subjects came up. The students that were in this coding class were able to relate it to them. And here are our stars now. So as they come up, this first one is Bjorn Doss. He's actually a freshman at Silver High School this year. And then behind him is his brother Lachlan. He's an 8th grader this year. So I just showed the video. Do you guys want to share anything you learned from the class or something?
One of the things that I enjoyed about the class was that they gave you the baseline for what you had to do, but from there you can kind of do your own thing. So you also learn about functions like input and output and how all the variables work around each other, and overall, when you're given a final project evaluation, you're given a lot of opportunities to create your own functions and a lot of the variables that surround it. And I like the fact that you could, there's a lot of your own thought process going on, and it didn't feel like you had to follow a certain path.
We also, I like how we learned about the Booleans, and so that was a variable instead of a given numerical value, it's a true or false statement, and we had a variable that applied inequalities, and if the inequality was true, then something would happen. If it was false, then it wouldn't happen. So we use this to constrain, to keep a character on the screen, to keep them on the screen, and so.
And as a programmer before using this specific programming code, I found that there's a lot of useful tools that would help explain and introduce you to other programming topics. So I've been using JavaScript, and even though these two programming languages, there's a lot of differences, there were still a lot of connections that I was able to make. And overall, especially with order of operations, which I think I explained in the video, the steps that you take to create certain lines of code, they definitely cross the line.
One thing that both of them did also is they kind of touched on it, but we learned certain functions in class, but they went above and beyond and were asking, how do you do this? Can we make it do that? And we actually, for a couple of them, we actually had to contact the people who made the program to see how to make it work within this computer language. So, very proud of them.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for Bjorn. You said you're a freshman at the high school now.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Using this program that you have, how have you been able to apply that to some of your studies at the high school then, coming from this school?
Well, I'm more of an advanced math student, but I can see how this could, especially for Algebra 1, I took Algebra 1 last year, but the introductory stuff, with the order of operations, it can help you from function to function, and also kind of with variables in general and the input-output tables and X's and Y's and stuff like that. There's a lot of that in there, even though it's not explicitly stated a lot of times, and it can help you come up with and work your way around the concepts outside of a specifically math setting.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel that you could do a lot of it in your head? To a certain degree, more so than the manual way.
Yeah, you can do a lot of it in your head, and it's also nice the fact that you can plug in numbers and see what the computer comes out with, and then it helps you.
Yeah. And what class are you in at the high school now? A math
I'm in geometry.
Geometry, right. Okay, very good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. Very impressive. I've got just a comment. I deal with farm machinery. I'm a farmer, but my comment on is that the machinery nowadays fails not because of the other mechanics. It's the software that runs on just a network of computers and sensors and things like that. That are just running various routines and whatnot. Which is reduces emission, increases fuel economy, all that stuff. But that's where the problems are, and that's where kind of the future is in the mechanical world. It's going to be the software, not the hardware. So, just good to see you guys learning that stuff.
So really quick to piggyback on that, the same in the medical field. There's a lot of equations that need to be done in the medical field, whether you're in nursing or pharmacy or physician, PA. All of those things are going to be a part of your generation, your life when you start progressing into, in school and then off to whatever you do after that. So it's probably going to be in a lot of industries, across the board. So very good. Yeah. Thanks.
Megan, quick question. Do the students have to show a level of proficiency in math before they enter the class? Or is it just come one, come all, and bring them
So
all?
we offer it to 6th through 8th graders. 7th and 8th graders, they can get in. If it's a 6th grader, then we look at their math ability, just so that it doesn't hold back with the computer science side. One thing that was really awesome though with it was that even though both of these guys knew it pretty well going into it, but there's small mistakes that you make along the way. So being able to justify other people's work, their finding mistakes, was a little bit of a challenge also. So they taught me, I taught them, they helped each other, so it was a good experience.
Nice. Great. Thank you. Cool.
So
Thank you.
do either of you two plan or think you might end up in a computer science field?
I've kind of sort of thought about it, and I'm not taking a computer science class this semester. I've been doing other things, and I've been thinking about doing it sophomore year. I haven't really planned on it. I've been more looking toward the medical field and law, maybe, but I'm going to wait until I take the PSAT. But yeah, computer science, I was doing this starting it was more like, I remember I was doing programs on Common Time in the 4th grade with Mr. Gingrich a little bit. But, so like, it's always interested me. I've just kind of fallen away from pursuing other things.
Sure. I know, I was in high school when I started dabbling, but it's what changed my trajectory, and that's what I do for a living. So I'm just curious kind of where you get into that.
It is a pretty interesting subject.
It's very impressive.
Yeah.
It takes, for us to be able, the district supported this, right? They sent Ms. Lerman to this 4-day conference clear in the Midwest. She was able to bring this back, institute it within our school, and giving these kids an opportunity. And so the thing we talk about all the time is we can't even keep up with where these kids need to be. And so now being able to have every kid in the school on a one-to-one, and our 2nd graders now are sending, every parent can see every assignment they do every day through a technology program that they send home to parents and show the work. And so it's just neat seeing something like this take off for our school, and seeing some 2 great leaders kind of, lead the pack there. And I don't think
Thanks, guys.
So Ms. Lerman, have you been able to discuss this program with the high school teachers in the science or math department and see how you're teaching those kids and they end up at the high school and what they're
Not the
coming with?
science department, no, but I did talk a lot with the computer science department.
Right.
When we took the freshmen to go tour, it was in the middle of our, I guess we call it workshop or class last year. And they were able to see that what they were learning was a lot of what they learned first semester in intro to computer science. So that was
great.
pretty cool.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so you've had a connection then. Great.
All right, thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Lachlan's our student body president.
Okay, next up is our public comment period. Would anybody like to come and address the board? Okay, we'll move on. First up is our discussion item. We got Lauren, Stanley, and Andy Belando to talk about the Silverton High School traffic flow and what to do about the additional parking lot.
Good evening, everyone. Lauren and I are going to speak about the first topic and seek your questions and your input. And then for items B and B1 and 2, we'll ask Steve to join us up here as well. So this evening is full of facility discussion. We've had some on and off discussion about facilities for the last few months, and of course facilities is always a hot button topic wherever we are in the school district. I appreciate Jamie McCarty's comments tonight about the value of the seismic grants, and I think all of you know we've aggressively pursued those grants over the last few years, and we just submitted 2 additional applications for more seismic grant opportunities in our school district, so fingers are crossed that we'll be able to get those. Just as an aside, the seismic grant award cap is increased from $1.5 million to $2.5 million. So that will create some additional flexibility, which we kind of wished we had for Victor Point, for New Creek, for Starks Mills, but we have that flexibility now, so yeah, fingers crossed we're going to be able to qualify. We think we have some very good candidates in our district. So with that said, I'm going to do a very brief review of 2 topics related to Silverton High School, one of them being some emails, some communication you've had about traffic flow at the high school recently. And while we don't have a specific resolution this evening, I do want to share with you an update on that, and Wade Lockett is prepared to share more with you because he's leading the charge at Silverton High School related to that. And second is to discuss the progress made toward the construction of an overflow parking lot at Silverton High School. And that's where I'm going to ask Lauren to chime in a bit as well. First of all, just related to traffic flow at Silverton High School, as you're aware, as we've discussed in the past, we definitely have a higher density of traffic flow on campus and around campus, more than we've ever experienced in the past. I think there are a lot of dynamics at play, everything from the number of kids driving to the number of parents who drop off and pick up their students from Silverton High School. I think there's even been a slight decrease in bus transportation over the past few years. With all that said, we have a campus that has a capacity of 1,400 students, but it surely doesn't have the capacity for half of those students to be able to drive every day. And year after year, we're leaning closer and closer to that. And as we move into the spring every year, we have an increase in the density on campus for really the simple reason that more kids qualify for driver's licenses. And so when you put all of those sort of moving parts together, you have what we have now, and that is high density around the high school. You combine that with the reactivation of Silverton Middle School a few years ago, and when we did the traffic impact analysis around the school, and we essentially met muster with that, it still doesn't minimize the fact that there's more density. I left the district office today around 3:15 to head over toward Wilco, and I had to wait in traffic for about 10 or 12 minutes just to get from the district office to Wilco. It was gone 5 minutes later. I mean, it's sort of concentrated for 10 or 15, 20 minutes, and then it's gone. And in some cases it's worse, in other cases it's better, but the reality is it's there. So with that, I asked Wade Lockett to convene a group on campus to address what could happen on campus, because that's what we have the authority to control. What he could address on campus to help minimize that density, increase the traffic flow. And he actually, very quickly, to his credit, involved a protective services class at Silverton High School and sought their effort. The kids were actually out there with Kirsten Barnes and others surveying the density of traffic, how much is there, where kids go before school, where they come after school, what the traffic flow is for pedestrians, for bicyclists, etc. They've taken quite a few tracked quite a few results, and they have actually submitted some information to me, but they're still looking at additional options to support the campus. So again, I'm giving you a bit of a teaser right now because I don't have all the information at this point yet, but I've asked Wade to come up with some very specific ideas on campus that could help regulate the traffic and move it in a way that maybe will help some of the density off traffic. Some of the suggestions are use of, there's a gate between the two parking lots on the high school campus that could help regulate some of the traffic. We could put some more of the traffic toward Cremina Drive, so Grand Street isn't so congested at the end of the day. There was some suggestions about everything from staggered release times, which logistically would be problematic, but it could be possible, and a number of other ideas out there. Even with something like similar to what we have in elementary schools, a crossing guard, we could put like a person at the intersection of the back entrance onto Grand Street to help regulate the traffic, just so it moves faster and smoother. And we're also having some conversations with the city of Silverton about what that could look like. And of course, we always ask them for police presence and plenty of other attention around campus every day. So that's a very brief update on what that looks like. Wade will be able to give you a report, hopefully within the next month. It could be a couple of months, but we'll be able to get that to you. We have some issues to sort out there, and we want to get that done. So that's my segue into the area, or the parking lot at Silverton High School. And let me just very quickly refer you to some slides that I have on the overhead that are the same slides that you have. You put in a few packets on the agenda at the door. One of the questions that you would ask me is to help clarify what some of the jurisdiction around Silverton High School is, because that makes a difference with who we have to permit, which agency we have to permit in order to construct this parking lot. If you recall, even 6 or 8 weeks ago, I sent you an email saying I thought it really was going to be in the best interest of us to consider a petition to annex that portion of the Silverton High School into the city of Silverton, because there was quite a bit of merit to that. And while I still think there is, since then in conversations with Lauren, and he'll update you in just a moment, we believe that we have now another route in order to get this approved through Marion County. So very quickly, some background. If you take a look here, I'll go as slow as I can with the arrow. This is, there we go. This is Silverton High School, Silverton Middle School. The areas in blue are city of Silverton jurisdiction. The areas in white are Marion County jurisdiction. So one of the things that we have realized for a long time, and we've shared with you, is that the jurisdiction line around the high school, really around this part of town, is just kind of different. So here we are on the back side of the TLC house and the greenhouses, and here's the CTE building. And just right behind the CTE building, you'll see that's the border for the city of Silverton. Admittedly, much of this is within the urban growth boundary within the city of Silverton, which does make a difference when it comes to annexation. And so here, this area, and I'll go into a little closer look in the next slide, this area is the area that we're discussing, and we have proposed to create the overflow parking lot for Silverton High School. This is about 0.99 acres that we acquired a little over a year ago. There was a house on this property. We worked with the Silverton Fire District and our protective services class to have a burn to learn on site, and so that has all been cleared. The house is gone, the well is capped, and we're ready to create a parking lot out here. Before I move on to the other slide, take a look here. This is Western Avenue, by the way. You can see Western Avenue on the north side is county jurisdiction, and even one piece of property on the south side of Western Avenue is county jurisdiction. And here's Grant Street. You go south on Grant Street, you see all this blue. That's city jurisdiction, but there's a couple of properties there that are county jurisdiction. We see the same thing on the south side. So it's just an interesting situation around Silverton High School when it comes to jurisdiction and what that looks like. So here's a little closer look. This is a proposed parking lot. A closer look does a couple things for me. It points out those county areas that are county jurisdiction. But I want to point out something that's rather peculiar, and I hadn't realized this until about 6 months ago. But there is a lane, by the way, this blue lane, that's the city of Silverton. So the city of Silverton actually surrounds 3 sides of a county jurisdiction property. Which again is just the reality of the situation, and I suppose if you could go back and find board minutes and lots of conversation, and I see Wally Lehrman's in the audience tonight, you may be able to share some more history about this as well. But acquiring this property really, I know, took some very creative efforts with neighbors to be able to do that, and I'm certain that county and city jurisdiction line is a result of some of that conversation. So with that said, we own this path, which was the original driveway, which went back to the house. It's currently the TLC house on campus that was a residential home at one time. So I'm certain that's why that's a city jurisdiction. And then this property was owned by another individual, a couple of individuals, and was always under county jurisdiction, which it still is. I think there will be some point in the future, again, with the unknown at this point, I'm proposing a gravel parking lot because we need more space at Silverton High School for parking. But at some point in the future, the school board, I think, will have a decision to make to annex that property. And I think at some point it should happen simply because it would really clean this up out here. There wouldn't be any question of jurisdiction. In your packet, I also threw a couple aerial views of the same thing, so you can see a little bit more of what the area looks like. And just for reference purposes, from Silverton Middle School, this is Florida Street. This is James Street. This is Western Avenue. A number of our kids currently, because they either didn't acquire permits or because they're ineligible to have a parking permit, they park down here behind Davison Field, or they park here along the tennis courts, and then walk the 2 blocks to Silverton. And here's a little closer shot, right at the intersection of Grant Street and Western Avenue. I put this one in here to show where the addition of the crosswalk is. This crosswalk, this is not an actual crosswalk, but those 2 blue lines indicate where it was placed. We did a fair amount of improvement right in this area through Warren's effort and leadership to be able to improve that and meet the county requirements to put this crosswalk in. As a result, we now have school zone signs along Western Avenue, coming this way on south on Grant, and even on north, simply because of the crosswalk there. So that, we did exactly what we were looking to do. All right, with all that said, I'm actually going to turn it over to Lauren to talk a little bit about the permit application for turning that into a parking lot. I really wish it was easier than what this has turned out to be. I think all of you know, we hoped to have this thing done 3 or 4 months ago, but it just hasn't been the case.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so actually, we hope to have this done a lot longer, a lot further back. What we found, originally, we set up a meeting with Marion County after it was determined that there was going to be several things that they were talking about requiring. At any rate, we met with Public Works, Planning Department down at Marion County, and unfortunately at that time there were a lot of things brought up that were going to be required in that meeting that were going to be very costly, such as Grant Street improvements, sidewalk curbing, possible storm drainage, drain system improvements, DEQ permits, a lot of things that really shouldn't have been required. And at that point, I determined that it might be better suited to go through the annexation process and go through the city. I talked with them, they were open to it, but it's also a costly process, and it's a pretty involved application process to get that done. The engineer I had been working with on this project that did the design actually recommended that we contact a land use consultant. And so I did. I contacted a land use consultant. He's worked with Seal and Kaiser and helped them out on a lot of projects. And he reviewed where things were at, reviewed the prints, and he felt that it was the most cost-effective option to go back to Marion County and file an adjustment application, and that he didn't feel that Marion County was going to be able to hold us to all of these requirements. So now that's where we're at. Basically, we have hired the land use consultant to prepare this adjustment application, and we're going to submit it to Marion County and get their comments and see what we need to do at that point in time.
What are the types of things that they're talking about not required?
About not requiring
Yeah,
it.
I mean, you said they're going to drop some requirements. What are the types
Well,
of things they're dropping?
we don't think they're going to be able to hold us to those requirements. For example, fencing, the whole project is supposed to be fenced. That's one of the items. Storm drain improvements is another one. The Grant Street improvements would be pretty significant. Sidewalk, curbing, and really it's not going anywhere. If you look at the map, it's just going to a field. So there's one additional house down there. So at this point, it just seems like that's our best option, our quickest option to be able to get this completed.
So Jonathan, I can respond too. One of the options, if you take a look at the map, is right here along Grant Street. There is currently an ingress to the property right there. And if we were to, one of the items that the county was anticipating that we would keep that in place. We're not interested in keeping that in place at this time, maybe at some point in the future, but our plan is just to fence all of this and to regulate the traffic flow entirely on school district property. That makes the most sense to us at this point. And so there would be a fence along the east end of the parking lot. There's currently a chain link fence along the south side of the parking lot. We would put a double wide gate in there so that we'd be able to control. And again, the intent of this is as an overflow parking lot. It's not intended to be an everyday 12 month of the year use. It's intended for in spring when the density gets too high, or for things like graduation or large events that are held at Silverton High School. And so with that, we believe we can control it. We estimate that we can put nearly 100 parking spots in here. We may not be able to afford to get all 100 of them installed at once. This could be 50 or 60 in the first phase and then another 40 in the second phase. But one of the conditions would be we just eliminate that ingress at this point. And so we think the county would be very receptive to that, so as long as we control it all on campus.
So did you say that you're thinking that this is strictly for overflow parking?
Correct.
Not for daily student parking?
And so it's partially driven by what we can afford.
Right, so I'm just trying to figure out, because we have, in the beginning we had, you said we had so many kids walking 2 blocks, to the high school and then parking on Grant Street and
Yeah, let me clarify that.
That'd be great. Yeah,
That's where kids currently park that don't have parking passes.
Right.
And so
Right.
there's clearly a need for additional parking at Silverton High School, but in order for us to convert that parking lot to a designated everyday use parking lot would very likely be cost prohibitive for us at this point.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're
So
going
that's
the
the
gravel
clarification.
route.
Okay, yeah, it's just the cost of the difference between overflow and daily parking. Okay.
You want to comment?
Yeah, and
that'd be
it
great.
would be designated basically as a part-time use, so we can use it when we need to. It's just not always going to be in use.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different than temporary. It's another
Right.
adjustment designation.
Oh, okay.
So it is designed, it's set up in two phases. So phase 1 would just be the west section, which is basically what we have funding for currently. And that would provide approximately 58 spaces. And then when it's completed, the other portion of it would be a total of 93 parking spaces.
And then either Lauren or Andy, is there then maybe thought down the road that at some time it would segue into a permanent parking lot on a regular basis?
Yes, and because this isn't a UGB, it will also have to go through the city, and there's a good chance that they will make us commit to paving this lot at some point in time in the future.
So now you mentioned that you met with both Public Works and Planning from Marion County. And then so with the new land use consultant and going for the adjustment application, is it still going through planning and land use, or is it a different department altogether?
They'll go through planning and Public Works also.
Okay.
So their engineering still has an opportunity to comment and put requirements. But the land use consultant has the ability to challenge those.
I guess my question was, I'm a little bit curious, if the first time they came with somewhat prohibitive request as far as making that property eligible for us to utilize. What's going to be different with the application now that they're going to go ahead and maybe remove some of the requirements? Because it's still the same people we're talking to.
Yeah, let me clarify too. We have not submitted the application or had not submitted. Marion County's been pretty receptive to coming out and consulting with us and being on site and giving us, this is what we believe we will require for you to do.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, so the application is ready to be submitted at this point in time. There's a cost to submit the
So
application.
it's been a preliminary conversations and talks. Okay.
Correct.
So you want to comment on that? What's would be different now as compared to?
Well, it's a much more cost-effective option to go this route. It's going to be much faster. And so that's why we decided to go this route, because this has been delayed already too long, and we want to get this parking lot installed so it's usable.
And Ron, we did it on our own somewhat. We did have our engineer who helped us design the parking lot, but we did bring the consultant in this time who has a little more savvy and experience in working with county jurisdiction, and Marion County in this case, to be able to come up with a solution that he believes that they can live with.
Ron, I've gone through a couple things with the county just recently, and
Yeah.
I've hired a consultant a couple times to help with some of this stuff, because if it's somebody who works with the county a lot, they kind of know who to talk to, they know some of the ins and outs, because you can go to the county quite often and hear a different story from every different person you talk to. So it's really worth it, I think, to hire somebody who kind of knows the ins and outs and ways to work around some different things.
No, I agree. I just said, my misunderstanding was I thought we already submitted the application the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And they submitted their response and we had our marching orders. And I'm thinking, well, if we're going to approach them the second time, maybe try a different adjustment, but with the same people. What's going to be so different? But now I understand that, we didn't submit the application and then bring in the consultant. No, I definitely agree with that.
What is the difference in cost with making this a daily parking as opposed to, compared to overflow in special events?
I think one of the significant costs is paving.
Okay.
So, but we can still use this daily. It's part-time, and so it's a little bit different designation than such as a temporary, for example, which was the other adjustment we were looking at. So it won't always be in use like a regular parking lot.
Right. Do you have numbers on that? Do you have numbers of the difference in price, or you're still going?
I do not
You
have
don't?
numbers.
Okay, I thought maybe you did. I don't know.
We have some estimates, Shelley.
Some estimates,
yes,
okay.
we have, and remember, this is being partially driven by the fact that we have about $80,000 remaining in the high school bond account.
Okay.
In order, and we believe this is the most appropriate way to get those bond dollars to zero. And again, started planning this even a couple of years ago. With that said, we tried to keep this project to that $80,000 mark, and that's why Lauren suggested that we phase it in, because we believe we can get at or very close to that mark with phasing it in. Estimates that we've heard from others, though, is if we were to do a full parking lot with a paving, we were talking double that at a minimum.
I think it was about another 40,000.
40,000-ish.
To do the other portion in gravel.
In gravel.
That's not paved. We
Part
didn't- we
paved,
didn't
part
get
gravel,
any-
or-
We did not get any quotes for paving and storming, et cetera.
Okay. Okay.
What's the added expense of the consultant adding to this project?
I think his quote for this was, at this point in time, was a little over $2,000. So, unfortunately, they're not cheap. But this is kind of a complex project. We've got, city and county property. We're combining this project on.
So my only concern when I hear this is we have so many students driving to our school and parking on streets that, it's just, they're packing the baseball field. And when this project gets underway, which it will, and it's not usable as a daily, everyday parking lot to alleviate some of that congestion, I feel like we're not using our dollars as much as we can to alleviate a lot of that for the students. Because they're parking all the way down to St. Paul Church, you know, to Grant, and you know that, you know all of that. And so when we have a parking lot that's sitting there empty, waiting for overflow traffic or overflow from graduation and such, I feel like we should, you know, if we're going to invest this money, we need to use the property. I mean, when I invest money, I want something in return and, you know, use it. So has there been a potential option for that? I mean, have you researched that at all to get those dollars somehow? Or is that, I don't know,
The reality is this
it's
project,
also a perception thing too. You know, you drive by and the parking lot is there and it's closed. You know, but we do need to help our kids who are driving to school. I don't know, just throwing stuff out there.
well, while this application process is going through a part-time use, the reality is the parking lot will be usable on a daily basis. I mean, that is the reality of the matter.
So officially,
Okay.
it's designated part-time use. The
Okay.
practical reality is that gate's open, there's 50 spaces available every day.
Correct.
So Andy, as far as the application for, if I understand correctly, the students have to purchase their parking permit as long as we have enough spaces to sell those permits. Now, are we going to be issuing in additional parking passes, or are they going to buy overflow passes? I mean, how do they access this particular parcel to park on?
Yeah, I don't have that answer yet, Ron, but I'll have to ask Wade and his staff to help sort that out. It does seem to me though that they'll have to have some kind of permission to park there, whatever that looks like. Maybe it would be a overflow pass that would cost less. I don't know. There are some students who lose the privilege of driving on campus, and so we have to be able to regulate that and monitor that somehow. So more to come on that. I don't have the answers.
Remains to be seen.
Any additional questions?
Yeah. Any more questions on parking lots?
I'll look
Okay.
forward to your
So we'll keep you posted.
more
Yeah.
information.
It'll be submitted soon. and-
Great.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, next topic, you guys can stay and we'll just have Steve come on up. We'll talk about Senate Bill 1149, Revenue and Energy Efficiency Projects.
Before Steve and Lauren start on this, if you go to it's untitled, but it has a number of columns at the top. It says lighting ECMs, mechanical ECMs, other ECMs in total. And our Senate Bill 1149 dollars, the district gets revenue throughout the year from public purpose dollars. Each one of you is utility buyers pay public purpose dollars. If you take a look at your PG&E bill or your natural gas bill, you'll see that there's a public purpose tax that's given, and that's given through a formula to the school districts where you reside. And so Lauren and Steve are going to talk about our proposed use of those dollars as we move ahead.
All right. The district has a lot of very, very old lighting. Many of the facilities have very old T12 light fixtures. They're inadequate. They are a maintenance issue, and they just don't provide adequate light. This project you see in front of you is utilizing a process called energy savings performance contracting. I don't know, some of you might be familiar with it. Basically, it's using an energy savings contractor that specializes in this type of work. And we're trying to utilize and come up with a project that is cost neutral to the district. And so basically, I'll go through this and kind of explain it to you. The project costs up here at the top column, you have $1.8 million in lighting, energy measures. And then we have $500,000 in mechanical measures. Those mechanical measures we have not determined yet. We have not done a full lighting audit. A full mechanical audit. But we have completed the lighting audit, and so that cost is pretty fixed, the lighting PCM at $1.8 million. What that represents is basically retrofitting all of the old lighting in the district, including parking lot lights to LED lights, new LED lights. We have a total project budget placed here of $2.3 million. Now currently in our Senate Bill 1149 account, we have approximately $300,000 that we can utilize towards this project. So if you take a look, you'll see that gets us down to a $2 million project. The idea is that the district would take out a loan for $2 million to fund these projects, and utilizing the SB 1149 income, which is still coming in, to help make the payments, as well as Energy Trust of Oregon funds, as well as there's also some business energy tax credits that's not shown in here. So there's also a lot of money that we will be saving in maintenance, etc. So to kind of show you how it's working here, I don't know if we've had a chance to really look at this, but you have two columns that are net and cumulative, and then you have your year 1 through year 20, and the loan payment through year 15. And then it shows here the annual energy savings that would be put towards that loan payment in years 1 through 15, and they estimate a slight increase in energy rates, and so that's why you see that number continues to go up. It's estimated. And we have our ETO and SB 1149 income in the next column that would go towards those loan payments. And then you have your net for the year. So in the first year, we would basically save $69,000. And the second year, we're saving 74, or that's cumulative, excuse me, so that would be plus the 5,422. So to make the long story short, you get down here to the bottom of the 15-year loan, and we are approximately $168 out of pocket. So, or excuse me, $3,380. I was lying off there.
In year 15.
In year 15, correct. So, then you see energy savings over the next 5 years that go up to $962,000 estimated. So one of the great things about this project is that the district doesn't have to budget money for this. By using the energy savings performance contractor, they also guarantee the energy savings. So providing we don't make a lot of changes in our district and start running school, many hours more a day or significant changes like that, they will guarantee those energy savings to go towards these loan payments.
Who makes that guarantee?
The energy saving performance contractor, so we're currently working with Amoresco.
Okay. Okay. That's a nice guarantee.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And that's a contract we sign?
Yes, and this is through a cooperative purchasing program also.
Okay.
So this is utilizing a 1 GPA, it's a national cooperative purchasing program.
Okay.
So do they guarantee this assumes a 3% increase, which seems high. Do they guarantee that also?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to guarantee that increase.
Yeah, so what happens if you start tweaking the variables and you end up with a percent or 1.5%? I mean, what's that look like?
Yeah, there is some room here for movement, obviously. So we're talking about I think a huge savings to the district in the long run. Right now, we are currently spending a lot of money replacing light fixtures in this district, and not just at the old buildings, but at the high school. This includes retrofitting the high school fixtures. We have a lot of T5 fixtures there. The ballasts are very expensive. The tubes are very expensive. So there's a lot of savings involved there also.
Lauren, are you familiar with the fixtures that these would be replaced with? I mean, are they long lasting? You're not going to be having to replace them in 5 years. You know, I know I've been replacing lights in my house with LED lights that are supposed to last 20 years, and I'm up on the ladder 3 years later, cursing them. You know, are you confident? You know, if these fixtures don't last as promised, who's on the hook for that?
That is a valid point. And so we are targeting fixtures with that 20-year or better life expectancy.
Okay.
But, you know, there's nothing that's going to be perfect.
No, I know that, but I mean, you know, hopefully it's stuff you guys have seen and dealt with and go like, yeah, this is good sound stuff.
Yeah, and we haven't got to the point of
Okay.
specifying anything.
Yes.
We kind of worked this up because I wanted to make sure there was something that the board was accepting of and wanted to look at. You know, that's why I wanted to bring it up and discuss it with you and see what your thoughts were.
No. How about the light quality? I mean, are we looking at, you know, these seem pretty nice, but are we using some old lights that just, I know, I used some Energy Trust program and put a whole bunch of new LED lights in one of my fab shops. Wonderful. I mean, it's bright. The light's just fantastic, and I just didn't know if are we buildings where they're just poor quality of light right
Yes.
now?
It will make a significant improvement in the quality of light in the classroom spaces, teaching spaces, gymnasiums, everywhere that we do it. There will be an increase in the light.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I mean, I've had some experience with a process like this, and I'm pleased. So.
I mean, I think it's a really good deal. I've been looking for any options I can to come up with projects like this where we can find funds to get badly needed maintenance items taken care of. So I think this is a good option. We did this actually in the previous district years ago. The good thing about the fact that we waited and we've got some money here to do this in this district is now we're going to LEDs, because when I did it, it was all T8. So now it's time to do it again in that district. So this could be a real plus.
Have you done the numbers? You usually give us a list of maintenance things that need to be done at each school each year. You have a whole list of things that need to be done. Have you taken these numbers and implemented into those schools, and how much reduction in money that we'd have to spend at those schools?
I have not.
Okay.
That would be pretty challenging, really, to look and see, and that's going to vary by year. For example, the high school, each year we go right now, we're having more failure because of its age. So each year it's going to increase the amount we spend on light fixtures and products, etc.
Right. So I guess I just wanted to see the comparison of your master list.
Well,
and then
it's a
sometimes
big
you can
list.
see the reduction when you compare something like this to some of the schools who might need more lighting than others, you know, or I mean, the high school is newer than many of our buildings in the district, so it's kind of, you know, wondering about the difference in.
Well, an example is this building.
Yeah.
We were able to use ETO funds, and because the lighting was impacted in the main building during the seismic project, we were able to get that replaced. So most of this main building has already been retrofitted with LEDs. So we have the gymnasium and some exterior lighting to take care of, but a lot less work to do.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know, let Steve.
I got another question. Is the SB 1149 reimbursement guaranteed through the next 8 years as well?
These are.
That's a great reading question. That's what I was going to give you a little history and background on Senate Bill 1149, Jonathan. But basically, I believe it was passed in the 2001 legislative session, I believe. It started in 01 or 02 funding. So it's been around for a while, and so we do have a little over $300,000 sitting there now, but I believe there's been at least a couple of uses or projects of those funds well before Lauren and I were here, but it's been building up some more. We get about $5,500 a month average. It ranges between $5,000 and $6,000 a month directly to our district from the PGE, and it goes into funding 270 account with a special sub area to track that money. So that's where it's a little over 300,000 now. But so yes, that additional projected money is higher in the first year because of the UTO that Lauren mentioned. But yeah, that 65,000 each year, including in the first year, all the way out through year 7 it was a law that was passed by the legislature. So the program is good through 2025. Originally, I believe it went through about 2013 or 14, and they extended an additional 10 or 11 years when we got to the end. So for 2007, it was only a 6 or 7 year deal. So yeah, we can depend on that money, and the ETO comes into play because we're putting the project in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that'd be a one-time shot.
Right. Yeah. But bottom line is, we have a little over 300,000 sitting there now. We know we'll get an additional 523,000, but that's not going to be, even if we didn't use anything and waited until 2025, that means we would have maybe 850,000 sitting there, which means we'd still be over $1 million short to do this project. So, the whole philosophy behind it is let's put this money to work now, get better lighting for our students to learn in. We're going to have a net positive cash flow for the first several years, and yes, we are paying a loan to get that. But again, the cash flow is positive. We get to year 15, then it just starts building very quickly in a positive direction there. But like Lauren said, we're not having a budget for that. Just all kind of works its way through kind of on its own. So Senate Bill 1149 has been a good thing for schools for sure.
The 4% rate on the loan, that's just an estimate, of course, but I mean, could you guys work one of these up that assumes you got a worse rate on the loan and a smaller amount of energy saving? You know what I mean? It's hard to do all that math in your head, but I mean, my guess is it may still come out ahead after 20 years, but it may not. I'm just curious.
Sure. Yeah, we can run a couple of scenarios for sure. And then every school is impacted. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
How long would it take to switch out the lighting?
What's that?
How long would it take? How long would the project take?
Probably over the
you're
course of
talking
the
about
year,
every
we'll probably
school.
see some work done on swing shift after school hours.
Yeah, some of those fixtures are really easy to swap out.
Yeah.
You don't have to put up a new fixture. You essentially pull the bulb out and put in an LED strip, and it's good to go.
There's a lot of retrofitting involved in the project, so.
I see.
But that's realistic, I would say, over a year's time, and we work, around the schedule of the buildings. Trying to do it all in the summer is not realistic.
Yeah, that's what I was okay.
But it's all in-house, I guess. Maybe is another way to. You don't got to hire contractors to do this. This is.
No, this is all being done by contractors.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it.
So this is way too much work for us to try and think about.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Did the audit include an analysis of when lights are on, or was it purely an analysis of replacing a light that's on today for 12 hours and it's on tomorrow for 12 hours?
The audit did account for occupancy of the building, hours of occupancy and use. There's a full audit that was completed, and they supply that if you're interested in looking at it.
Well, just broadly, I was curious if it took into account it. Is it assuming any change in the use of lighting? That's, I guess, my question.
It's assuming pretty much hours of occupancy and hours of operation staying the same. So.
Okay, maybe to ask a different way. Are we going to turn lights off that are on outside all night that don't need to be to save money, or is that not assumed in this cost savings?
That's not assumed in this cost savings, not exterior lighting in particular. So this would there's some management measures where you would put occupancy sensors in large spaces that would shut off lights when they're not occupied. So we definitely have some measures there, but we wouldn't utilize that probably in the exterior.
Yeah. Okay, well, I encourage you to think about that one too. I've seen some lights on either all night or very late that don't need to be. So that'd be another way to save some.
Okay.
Lauren mentioned our past use of Senate Bill $149, and while we haven't attacked lighting like this in the past, these projects, you come getting at your question, Shelley, these projects have to meet certain criteria related to energy efficiency in order for them to qualify. So we couldn't use $149 for anything other than something that will demonstrate some significant energy efficiency and cost savings to the school district over time. In the past, we replaced boilers. The Mark Twain boiler was fully replaced by 3 natural gas boilers up there a number of years ago. We've also done remote, what do you call those remotes?
The thermostats.
Thermostats, yeah, remote thermostats, so computer adjustable thermostats at 4 or 5 of our schools, so we can adjust the thermostats and control them from a computer screen. Helen Fetch does much of that for our school district. So those have been some of the energy efficiency projects that we've done in the recent past. So with this said, there's no action required by the board. There will be action necessary when we get to the point of approving the loan and bring that back to the board. But moving ahead with this project, since it's essentially no cost to the district other than taking out loan, because it's a cost for interest. But I would bring that loan back to you for your review at that time. We can surely give you the updated information, Jonathan, you mentioned tonight, others, for you. But as we move ahead, what I don't know, Lauren, can you tell me if we were to move ahead with this, what's the earliest that we could be in this project? I'm assuming it will take a few months to qualify.
Right, and get the loan.
We could begin before the end of this school year.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Can I go on to the
Yeah, next topic.
And again, I'm going to turn this over largely to Steve and Lauren, and that's related to our facility planning. We've had lots of discussion. In fact, it's been a priority of the goal to be able to reconvene the long-range facility task force work group again, which is something we anticipate doing this school year. In order for that group to really have something tangible, we need an assessment of our facilities completed. If you recall, we qualified for a $20,000 state facility assessment grant last year, which is essentially ready to go. And we've also qualified for a $25,000 long-range facility planning grant. And so in order for the long-range committee and the planning grant to be administered, we have to assess the facilities first. And while we assess the facilities in the past, there are some requirements around use of these dollars related to facility assessment. So we do need to bring a contractor in order to do that. And we have in front of you this evening a proposal that Lauren has put together in order to help that happen sooner than later.
Yes, this is a proposal from BDL Architects. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them. I have worked with them previously. I've had a long relationship with the mechanical electrical engineers. So they're a good outfit. This proposal is to do the full facility assessment for the district for the TAP grants, and basically you can see that it's just under $100,000. It's $99,782 total. So the district is going to have to come up with some funds in order to proceed with this. Basically, this is utilizing another cooperative purchasing agreement. BDL performed all of the assessments for North Plaquemine School District. They've actually had an ongoing contract with them for all of their work since 2013, which has been renewed every year. They also just finished all of the assessments for David Douglas School District. So I'm recommending that we look at this and we'll have to proceed with it. So,
can you repeat the big picture again? It was $100,000. We're going to spend $100,000 to get an assessment, and there were some grants. What were the amounts on
If
the
you minus the $20,000 TAP grant or facility assessment grant that we qualified for. So the net to the school district would be around $80,000.
When do you get to use the $25,000 grant, the long range? facility?
Once we begin the long-range facility planning committee, that'll pay for things like the consultant and for work that we need to do in order to put that plan together.
I see, okay.
So, and we have to use both grants by December 31st of 19.
Yes.
2019.
Okay.
You know, the $80,000 is something that we would access through our capital projects fund, which is the source. That's Fund 430, which is the fund that that's where you obtain your construction excise tax revenue. And Lauren will share this, and Steve will as well, because when I took a look at this, I said, wow, that's more than what the grant provides. And it sure would have been nice to be able to keep a facility assessment in line with what the grant funds that are available. But admittedly, $20,000 to do a full assessment of a school district of our size, it's just not going to cover it. And when you think in terms of the equivalency, $80,000 within an annual budget in the tens of millions, we're really talking an investment in our future. And in order for us to have an appropriate facility planning task force, in order for us to have the necessary information to make long-range facility planning improvements, in order for us to, at some point in the future, prepare for another bond attempt, we have to invest in the appropriate research for our schools and for our facilities. And it's been a few years since we've done that. While all of you weren't on the board at the time, there was a commitment a few years ago after the last bond election attempt to tap the brakes a little bit and put a pause on this at some point in the future when we knew we were ready to take a look at our facilities again. And I think you're at that point. A few of you, Shelley and others, have commented on the timeliness of something like this. So I believe this investment is timely, it's appropriate, it will give you the information that you need in order to move ahead in a thoughtful and I think complete way with your facilities.
I'm sorry, can you tell me again, was there something like this done before, and when was that? If you can recall.
We actually, we have 2 or 3 full district assessments, the most recent being, I believe, in 2007, 6 or 7. There was one completed in the late 90s, there was one completed as far ago as 93. We have those. And those will be made available to the architect as well.
Oh, okay.
So they'll be able to see. Some things don't change over time, admittedly, but some things do, right?
Yeah.
Like use and access and ADA needs and traffic needs, traffic flow, right?
Right.
Typically, how long does a good, thorough assessment like this seem valid? How long is it good for, something to reference for the next 10, 15 years? Is it just in general?
My opinion, realistically, 5 to 7.
Wow, okay.
That's my realistic opinion. Things change pretty quickly.
Okay.
And how much, the account you were talking about, where the construction excise taxes go, how much is in there now? I know it's been billed roughly.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to that now. I mean, we're somewhere in the $700,000, $900,000.
Okay.
Well, more than that, I think.
More than 80.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, just to give you a frame of reference, last year we hit another all-time high for construction excise tax revenue. We brought in $165,000 in construction excise tax revenue just in fiscal year 17-18.
Oh, I see.
These are the types of things that
Yeah.
construction excise tax is for. It's for,
Comes in handy.
if you're in a community like ours that has that kind of activity going on with construction like that, the theory is you're bringing in more kids and it has an impact on the school facilities, and these are things that we have to do. Obviously, the CET money is helping go towards the Schlater project loan payment that we have to make. Obviously, but this obviously would be a very fitting use as well.
What's the timeline for this? You have phase 1 and phase 2? Or you have phases here? The word phase for me just kind of,
Well, originally they had, so like they have a test case sitting, skating down here, and that was basically based on me spending time with them on one school to go through. But in further discussion, I will probably be involved with them at every building. They were counting on having head custodians that were very familiar with our buildings, etc. And we've moved our custodial staff around with the transitioning of schools, etc. So basically, I would be spending time with them throughout the whole process. So, and basically, you know, it's really kind of, I don't know why they have phase 1 and phase 2 here, to be quite honest. Oh, well, your phase 1 is all of the assessment basically out in the field, etc., reviewing materials. And then phase 2, I think, is really pertaining to the report, putting it all together.
Okay.
so do you have kind of an idea? I mean, have you been through one of these before?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so what kind of timeline, how long will this take, like, to do this? That's just,
You know, it depends on schedule and so on, but I'm going to say realistically 6 months.
okay.
So
Okay.
I wouldn't want to tell you, you know,
No,
a
it's
timeline
okay.
that's
I'm not
not
gonna hold you to it.
realistic. 'Cause
Okay.
everybody's busy.
Yeah, just a roundabout number, just about 6 months or so. Okay.
Hey, Lauren, you mentioned that if everything goes according to plan, we'll be reaching out to BBL Architects for the test.
Yes.
Can you speak a little more to their qualifications too?
Okay. Well, like I said, they've been the architect of record for North Clackamas School District. We're utilizing their cooperative purchasing agreement through North Clackamas School District. They also did David Douglas School District. I worked with them in Woodburn on a couple of our bond projects there, namely the first one was the district office. They were great to work with. The engineers, mechanical, electrical, I've been working with them since early 2000s. They've been great to work with, so I highly recommend them to anybody, basically. So this has been a good outfit to work with, and keep in mind, we're not asking them to design buildings for us with this, so we're really asking them to do a full comprehensive assessment of all of our facilities, which I think is a lot easier task than designing buildings for us, if that makes sense. And then, you know, when it comes to the long-range facility plan, you know, we would look at doing an RFP or, you know, whatever's determined in order to find somebody to work with us on that process. And it could be them.
So a quick primer on cooperative purchasing. School districts do that, especially larger school districts where you can acquire those services if the RFP for that school district, the host school district, said that, you know, whoever gets this contract can be accessed as a cooperative purchase, a service cooperatively purchased by another school district, sometimes referred to as piggyback. Okay, we've done that a number of times in the past. The most recent minibus we purchased was a piggyback contract we had with St. Kaiser School District. So this happens on occasion. So a large school district has done the hard work for us. They published the RFP. They've gone out and done the work, and they have selected this as their architect for their school district, and we're tapping into that.
Gotcha.
Now, we of course, Ron, have the option of publishing our own RFP if we want to, and taking, you know, the time and the money and the legal services and all the extra pieces that would be required for something like this. But I think for a contract of $80,000 and taking a look at the rates at the top of the page, knowing the history and the recommendations we have with this architect, I think we're in a good place.
And really, we're looking at like a little over $6,000 per building. So if you break it down, it's a lot more feasible.
Yeah.
If you have this today, I mean, besides the fact that it's interesting information, what do you plan to do with it? So we're going to spend $80,000. We're going to have all this information. It's insightful. We have no money to spend. So what are we going to do with it?
The plan would be to give this information to a facilities task force to come up with a long-range facilities plan, because they have to have this assessment in order to do that.
And the last one you said was 07, you thought? Ed?
07, yeah, well, so we did a full district plan. We've done some smaller assessments of all of our buildings between then and now, but 07 was the last full assessment. And we used much of that data for that long-range facility planning group that was convened in 2011 as well.
Right. Right.
So, Jonathan, I think that the important part here is that the facility assessment doesn't just evaluate, let's say, the conditions of the buildings, even though we'll get that. They'll also make some recommendations based upon education standards specific to facilities. So out of this, we will get, things change and trends change and so forth, we'll have an expert in the field to give us recommendations. Those are just recommendations, let's say, could be related to facilities, could be related to structural engineering,
right,
landscaping, traffic, anything. They have subs for all of those. And with that, the long-range facility planning task force will have the information it needs in order to do that long-range planning. And admittedly, the $25,000 facility planning grant, we are required to have a facility assessment in order to even access those dollars.
Right. And I'm assuming a certain amount of recentness to it, right? Does it have to be within the last how many years?
Say it again.
You said we're required to have one. We do have one. It's just old, so it has to be, I assume, newer than the one we have.
For the
yes.
committee.
Yes, it has to meet the criteria specific to the TAP grant, which talks about, I believe there's a time
Yeah,
factor
I was guessing.
there, but there's definitely a number of variables that those from 11 years ago don't have.
Yeah, we keep talking about long-term planning. There's not much long-term planning to do anymore. Things change so quick. I mean, 3 years, I would say it'd be about max. And then you've got to, have all of the bond and all of that takes time. So you could be 5, 6 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. As an example, the 2013 bond attempt was the culmination of about 3 years of effort, including facility planning, use of the assessments. We had the luxury of having the assessment in order to use for that group, so we didn't have the 6 months or whatever it would take to do that again. But that was 3 years of planning. Yep.
Okay. Any more questions?
Looks good.
Standing is good. Well, when would you need board action on this item?
This doesn't require board action.
Okay.
Board action is required for anything $150,000 or more. And so if we have the revenue in order to do it, which we do, budgeted, and I just need to be certain that you understood, and that if there were any hesitation or reservation, you let us know.
Just keep us in the loop.
You bet.
Okay, very good. All right, moving on. Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, yeah, that's it for our public section. Right now, we're going to adjourn to executive session under ORS 192-610-2H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. All right, thanks for coming.
Can we take 5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, let's return to regular session. Does anybody have any further business?
I have a couple of things that could be potential agenda items. The first one is about, well, you all know that we get presentations regarding music, district-wide music, just about every meeting. And I guess my proposal is, or question, when are we going to talk about when we might talk about music?
Right.
So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't need an answer, but if we want to discuss an answer, that's fine. And then the other one was that we talked about, at least an email, I think, appropriate email, that having a board representative at the forum with the Silver Falls Education Association that happens quarterly. that could be an option, but we would need to discuss protocol for that. And so those two things seem to be like, hanging out there for me. So I wanted to bring those two things up as potential topics to discuss.
Okay.
Well, I totally support the idea of, I had the same question about music because it's kind of comes up, and it seems like even if all we did was to say it's on our agenda in such and such a month to solicit or talk about ideas, or maybe we ask Andy for ideas of how can we, what are the options on the table to address some of the concerns that have been raised. Maybe they're viable, maybe they're not, but I don't have options in front of me, so it's hard to even formulate thoughts, really. So.
Well, I think one thing too, it's going to be predicated on budget. So I think we're a little bit premature in that respect, where we should probably wait to see what the next numbers are going to be, because that just may cancel out the idea of music altogether at this point. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be, but that's something that we probably need to consider.
Yeah, well, obviously it's going to have to be, I shouldn't say obviously, I think you're right. I think it's going to have to be part of a discussion as it relates to next year. I don't anticipate any changes this year, personally. So, yeah, I agree.
But knowing some ballpark figures would help us put in perspective. This is the budget, this is how much we're getting this next biennium, and what kind of impact, either an increase or decrease in funding makes, and then just knowing, what would something cost. And what that is, I don't know, but it would be easier to make that judgment if we had that kind of information.
Well, I think time's even is a bigger player than the money. When are we going to do it in the church?
All valid topics.
Yeah. So, we have lots to talk about.
Right.
I don't think there's any one of us on this board that don't like music or don't want music. We just got to figure out how to implement it.
Right. It's always a trade-off.
So.
Evaluate the trade-offs.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think, Andy, we can look at some at our next budget meeting, not our agenda meeting. We can look at some future agendas and maybe find a slot in there.
That'd be great.
To have a more formal discussion with.
Yeah, and absolutely, and actually, administrator at district level, cabinet folks and I have been discussing the same topic recently, and really coming up with a thoughtful presentation to you that takes into account much of what I've heard here this evening, what it means from a financial standpoint, instructional standpoint, what that means from a site-based budgeting standpoint, what that means from what are the options?
Yeah.
In a world of a budget that's unknown, and PERS is about to get insurance and collective bargaining. What do all of those things mean? And I agree, Jennifer. I think some figures, having something to sink your teeth into, would be very helpful. So, Tom, maybe we can do that. Don't know if we could swing it in time for the December work session, but something by January would be probably.
We can look at things for. Yeah, we'll talk about it next. Our agenda meetings and see if we look at things.
Well, options from you guys would really help us too.
I agree.
Yeah, especially
if you got your admin team talking about it already, and options from you guys would be very important for us to hear also, because.
I just think it's important that the public is aware, because I don't think they've heard from us that just because we don't interact with them, we're not against music. I think that's the big thing that needs to be put out there.
Right. Well, and us talking about it. Well,
yeah.
Let's start a discussion.
Okay.
thanks, Jennifer.
And the next item about getting somebody.
Yeah, the idea of, I think Andy wrote back to us about advice, like what would be, we talked about a lot of things that might be inappropriate when we talk about SFBA and interacting. And the one thing that was, deemed as appropriate could be having board representation at that quarterly, is it quarterly before?
Yeah, it's every six or 8 weeks or so, depending.
So at that forum, but I think that we don't want to willy-nilly one person show up and then nobody shows up. But so it's some kind of protocol or talk about the interest level or something like that, so that we can know how to proceed or not proceed.
Well, there are a couple of us on the board that have, well, 3 of us, that wear 2 hats when that comes to that. We're board members or we're a parent who have kids at the high school. And, you know, would we show up as our parent hat and participate, or would we show up as a board member hat? So I think that needs to be, you know, clarified as well. You know, I mean, Irv and I could show up and be parents, you know, honestly, in that case. But the board hat, or even, you know, even Ron, so
Yeah.
it's, well, and Tom.
Yeah.
And we have lots, yeah,
This is the forum where teachers meet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is-
Oh,
yeah,
I
this is-
showed up.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is where the
Oh, the
association
forum.
of
I'm
teachers-
sorry.
Is-
This is
is
where
it-
I showed up to the, where they were doing the interviews for the senior, you know, the students at the high school with Mrs. Basher. Sorry, I got it.
All
I got
that,
confused.
yeah.
Sorry.
Is-
Sorry about
is-
that. That's
is-
my
yeah.
confusion. Sorry, I was mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah. Anyway,
I guess to
the
kind of,
forum, the actual
well, to kind-
official forum.
yeah, to kind of piggyback
okay.
on the question, is this a public meeting that the union has? Can anybody show up? I assume no.
No.
So it's only so it's only
It's
licensed
only
teachers.
besides, it's a labor management meeting.
And they would be allowing us to come if we wanted to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's made up of district
Essentially.
administration and the.
They've already invited us.
Each school.
Yeah.
And this is driven in the collective bargaining agreement. There's actually a reference to the teacher's forum in there that talks about the makeup of its teacher and administrative representatives, but it doesn't say that there can't be a board representative on there. So I'd ask you during your conversation to also default to your working agreement that if you take make some kind of decision or even consensus that you're going to have a board representative on an organization, is that you reach agreement to do so. So bringing it up as an agenda item, Jennifer, I think is a great idea, but I would ask that you reach consensus that one person be that representative.
Yeah, and something I would think about is the presence of a board member at this meeting. Would it change the nature of that meeting?
It may.
Something
There are
like
ground
that.
rules for that meeting already. Private matters can't be discussed, confidential matters can't
Right.
be discussed. It's designed to be an intermediate step before something goes to, let's say, a complaint or a grievance,
Right.
or just to help be certain that the communication is clear.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it doesn't change the nature of the meeting so that some people feel like they can't say what they want to say.
It's hard to say.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's stuff to think about. So,
Well, and who deemed it appropriate
Who deems what appropriate?
for one of us to be on that?
Well, that's ultimately up to you as a board. It was suggested by.
It was suggested, but
by the
I,
union leadership that
Yeah.
board members attend.
yeah, but I don't think we've deemed it appropriate.
right.
No,
We
but
haven't
Andy in
dis-
an
we haven't
email
discussed it
said
yet.
that
That's
that was
why it needs
something
to
that
be-
we can discuss.
Right.
Okay.
That,
okay.
that it's not like the
Okay.
lawyers haven't advised it's against that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
One thing I'd caution you to consider is that, you know, you're the appeals agency. And so if something did come up in one of those meetings and now you've already heard something about it, it could make it difficult for you to be an objective appeal process. You'd have to probably recuse yourself. Not that, I mean, how often does that happen? But you would need to consider
Possibility.
it.
Yeah.
But didn't you just say there's specific rules for the forum meetings?
There
There's
are,
specific-
I mean, but there's a potential for something to be raised that would, be something of a collective bargaining nature that could ultimately land on the plate of the board.
Work condition issue.
Work conditions, right.
End up being agreements.
Employee complaint or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be something that is the downside. Like I think that the union has kind of invited us to this kind of opportunity, but if one of us were there or a couple of us were there, that would totally change the appellate process.
I think that when they were here to speak to us, I felt like the intention was just to open lines of communication, just to have more of a transparent communication and build a bridge. I think that's really all I mean, honestly, I don't think there's really anything behind it. The last time I saw them was a couple of months ago, or was it?
Yeah, their proposal
a
was
couple
pretty
months ago?
specific, that they meet with the board without administration presence. And that's just something that can't happen, that's not legal.
And also,
Well, then,
Shelley,
if that's not, then why are we even talking about it if we
No,
can't?
us attending this isn't what's not legal, but their specific request.
Oh,
was a
their
little bit
specific
different.
request.
This
Okay,
came up
okay.
as an alternative
Right,
possibility.
oh, okay.
and
I don't know, I just didn't think it was, I don't know.
I saw that meeting through a different lens than
Oh,
you
you
did.
did?
In fact, the
Okay,
complete
yeah.
opposite. When they attempted to change the board working agreement, the language, it was almost as if they're extending a hand of welcome and stabbing us at the same time. I mean, that's the way it felt. It felt very hostile, very confrontational.
Interesting.
It wasn't welcoming at all. Because if someone's going to come and offer their hand and say, hey, we're here to introduce ourselves, and just want to make sure that you know we're here, and we want to welcome you, and open up the exchange of information, free ideas, then you don't, on the same token, try to change the board working agreement. If you remember that day when they tried to change the language, that was very strong. And so I felt right away there's an agenda, they're focused, and it's not in our best interest. That's the way I felt at the time. Now, maybe they miscommunicated, or maybe they tried to, it didn't come across as they planned, but the way they broadcast wasn't friendly, from my perspective. So I would encourage you to go back in, and maybe all of us go back and look at that tape from during that meeting when they introduced themselves and they tried to change that agreement. That was, to me, a little bit peculiar. If you're extending an olive branch, you're not trying to change the rules of the game.
Things to think about.
Yeah.
So Tom, could we talk about this agenda as well?
Yes,
And we can sure
yeah,
put it on-
yeah.
on-
Yeah, we certainly started the conversation and things to think about. Should hopefully lead to a meaningful discussion.
Okay.
We'll add it at some point in the future. So, okay, very good. Anybody else have any further business? Okay, seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thanks for coming.